Hello, BookTube. I have a tag for you today. I was tagged by Josh at Literary Gladiators. Thank you very much. It's uh, the Queen book tag in honor of what would have been Freddie Mercury's 70th birthday, which is a little bit depressing to contemplate. And I think he would have found it so too, although can you imagine the music we would have got? But it's just a set of questions based on Queen songs, so I thought we'd get right to it. Number one, of course, is Bohemian Rhapsody, a work that successfully tells a story from multiple points of view. And I know I've mentioned it on this channel before, but I can't help repeating it. The Tale of Genji by Murasaki Shikabu, which doesn't really understand points of view, but which tells its story from every possible angle. And its story is huge, so you get lots of angles. Question number two, We Will Rock You / We Are the Champions. Two great songs mushed into one category so that we can make room for others. A work, series, or author you follow or support the way a sports fan does a sports team. There have actually been quite a few in my life, but usually when I like an author, I continue to read them no matter what. The one that came to mind for this is S.M. Stirling, the fantasy author who's changed series of novels, starting with Dies the Fire, is a favorite of mine, even though it's lost steam and gone insane. But S.M. Stirling does a bunch of other series too, and I like them all. I like his way of writing. Question number three, Don't Stop Me Now, a work you cannot put down. For this, I choose an oldie but a goodie, Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, which whether you know the movies or not, the two movie adaptations or not, whether you think you know the plot, the book it just never lets up. Not one page of it. Very lean and beautifully done. Question number four, Killer Queen. Dominant or badass female character. There are many, of course. I've mentioned a few on this channel, but for this one, I'll pick Eleanor of Aquitaine from the play The Lion in Winter, which was adapted into my favorite movie of all time. She was the wife of King Henry II of England, and before that, the wife of the King of France. She was the mother of several kings of England, and a formidable character in her own right, immortalized by Shakespeare, among many others. But I love the way she's done in this play. So when she's talking about her time with Louis, she says, I even made poor Louis take me on crusade. How's that for blasphemy? I dressed my handmaids as Amazons and rode bare-breasted halfway to Damascus. Louis had a seizure, and I damn near died of windburn. But the troops were dazzled. Question number five, A Crazy Little Thing Called Love, a book that includes ridiculous or forced relationship. The first one that came to mind was No Ordinary Time by Doris Kearns Goodwin, about the marriage and political life of Franklin Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt, who obviously, despite our author's best efforts to soften things, who obviously hated each other and pursued very different agendas. Question number six, Under Pressure, a work you were pressured to read. I've never been, this doesn't come as no surprise to anybody who's watched this channel, I've never been pressured to read a book successfully. I mean, what on earth would that be? But in my case, I have often been hired to read a book that I would otherwise not have read. And it has resulted in some wonderful experiences, just wonderful. I have an editor on the other side of the world in Abu Dhabi who often picks the books that she wants edited or reviewed. And sometimes they're books that I would never have picked, and they almost always turn out great. And the last example was my editor of the Christian Science Monitor, who picked Eowyn Ivey's book, To the Bright Edge of the World, which I would have ignored. And it was wonderful. So that often happens. Question number seven, I Want to Break Free, a pioneering feminist work. A little bit of a dicey question from somebody that all of Twitter with torches and pitchforks was ready to refer to as an ordinary sexist, y'all. But I actually could make a whole video on great feminist literature, because there's been a long history of it, and a lot of it is really wonderful. The one I chose for today is one of the seminal tent posts of the whole thing, The Feminine Mystique by Betty Friedan, which a lot of people have heard about and read excerpts of in class. The thing that you miss if you come at it that way is that it's actually wonderfully written. It's, in addition to the arguments that it puts forward, it's zesty from the beginning to end. So I highly recommend it as a reading experience, not just an important social document. Question number 8, Radio Gaga, a dystopian work that makes you uneasy because you feel its predictions will come true. Of course, for Americans, that can only be one thing. Sinclair Lewis's 1935 novel, It Can't Happen Here, in which a racist, sexist, bigoted, lying moron hucksters his way into the Oval Office and becomes president of the United States. We are 1 month out, a little more than a month out, from that happening in reality in America. And that's going to be the ultimate revenge for fiction, but it's not going to be pleasant to live through. Question number 9, I Want It All, an author or collection you want to own in its entirety. No authors. I'm not one of those people. I don't, read a book by an author, love it, and then want to read the stuff they wrote when they were in grade school. But as far as the series goes, Brandon Sanderson's The Stormlight Archives is something that I would love to have in its entirety. We will never live to see it in its entirety. An author who is now in grade school, 5 or 6 years old, will one day be hired by the Sanderson estate to finish The Stormlight Archives. But I'd love to have the next 4 books. I bet he has those in him at least, but they're not here yet. Question number 10, innuendo, the most suggestive line in literature. Well, you can't pin that down to just one. Raymond Chandler wrote 10 of them on his own. But the one that came to mind was from a read-along group from which I was ruthlessly excluded just recently. That's from Dante's Divine Comedy, from the Inferno, from Canto 5, where Virgil and Dante are talking to Francesca, the famous pairing, Paolo and Francesca, who their illicit love is punished in the afterlife by the fact that they're caught in a whirlwind and they can never quite touch each other. Oh, Dante was so brilliant. And when she's telling the story of their downfall into carnal lust, she talks about how they were reading Mallory. They were reading the stories of the Knights of the Round Table, which are mostly amorous adventures. People always think of them as slaying dragons, but it was mostly women. It was mostly that kind of adventure that Mallory wrote. And at one, she describes, the Italian is gorgeous, the heightening tension of their attraction. And then finally she tells her 2 guests, we read no more that day. I love it. Question number 11, I'm Going Slightly Mad, a work you enjoy for its eccentricity. Again, there are quite a few, but the one that I can't help but think of in recent times is The Wake by Paul Kingsnorth, a medieval historical novel for which he devised his own version of Old English. with no glosses, so you have to just learn, in addition to learning what's happening to the characters in the book, you have to learn the language of the book as you're reading. It's an uphill battle at first, but is it rewarding. It is so incredibly inventive. I loved it. I just loved it. I'll put all the notes to all these things down below, but I can't recommend it highly enough if you want a brain-breaking reading experience. Question number 12, The Show Must Go On, a posthumous work you enjoyed. Of course, the first example that came to mind is Virgil's Aeneid, but I think that was mostly posturing, and a lot of people in Rome had read the thing before he decided no one could read the thing. The one that came to mind more recently is Kafka, who's, The Castle, The Trial, those all came out after he died. No one saw fit to publish them when he was alive. So how much poorer we'd be without them, they definitely be my answer this time around. Question number 13, playlist. What are your favorite Queen songs? Of course, you can't have a favorite Queen song any more than you can have a favorite breath during the day. That's the nature of the all-abiding genius of Queen. You can no more have a favorite Queen song than you could have a favorite John Philip Sousa march or a favorite Fleetwood Mac song. But one that I really love that's never going to be on this tag or any other tag about Queen, because of the tyranny of political correctness, is Fat Bottom Girls, which is a great song, absolutely fantastic. They make the rockin' world go round, but are we ever going to hear about them? No, because you can't have, in 2016, you can't have the word fat and the word girl anywhere near each other, or you'll be sued in federal court, and you'll spend time in jail at The Hague. When did we all become so delicate? That's what I want to know. Show me a young woman who doesn't love the song Fat Bottom Girls. If you could show me someone who objects to that song because of political correctness, I would say they need to take their soul into the shop because it's got something wrong with it. But anyway, so rants like that will get me in trouble, I suppose, so I will move on. Question number 14. Who do you tag? I actually have a few people. I tag Jack the Bibliophile. Remember him? Back in 2002, he used to make videos that were so good. I tag Miranda Hayes. Remember her? Another blast from the past. As we're talking about old rock bands. She used to make great videos on video cassettes and then mail them to each of us back in the 90s. Wasn't that fun? Why don't people make daily videos? Why? That's all I want to know. Why? But in addition, I tag Reading with Pugs. I tag JerSingsandReads, but he has to sing his answers. This is a musical tag, for God's sake. That'll be enough for now, BookTube. Sorry for the ranting.